Welcome back to Uncle Cannon's Stranger Than Fiction. Qigong, some called it Chinese yoga, is a form of mind-body exercise that cultivate energy, with both physical and mental health benefits for the practitioner. Some consider Tai Chi as a form of Qigong as well. Beside cultivating Qi also includes martial art application. In a survey published by National Library of Medicine, there are more than 3 million Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners in the United States. While in China today, it was reported that Qigong alone, there are more than 5 million Chinese practicing Qigong in a regular basis. Do you know, once upon a time in China, there were more than 100 million Chinese practicing Qigong? Almost 10% of its population at the time. Meanwhile, private and state-funded research in Qigong and its related paranormal somatic science were also in full swing. This episode, we will try to relive this Qigong mania of China in the 80s and 90s. The Chinese term Qigong is a relatively modern word. While there are many types of Qigong being practiced since ancient times, the modern term Qigong has only started being used in China in the early 50s. In 1949, a Chinese government health official, Liu Guizhen, established the term Qigong to refer to a practice and system that he and his associate developed. It was first used in state-run rehabilitation centers in the country in the 50s. During the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution, Qigong, with other traditional and cultural practices, was a taboo to the public. Anything traditional and cultural were considered anti-revolutionary in the 10 years craziness of the Cultural Revolution from 1965 to 1975. As the country was trying to move on, emerging from the aftermath of the Cultural Revolution before the commence of economic reform in the early 80s, it seems the country was in a state of soul-searching. Qigong, with its health benefits, became popularized as a daily morning exercise practiced en masse throughout China since the late 70s. From a short list of traditional ancient style like 8 silk brocade to hundreds or even thousands of modern style developed by Qigong masters of the time. While this movement seems mostly practiced by civilian, it also has the backing of Chinese government at the time. The China Qigong Science Association gained government approval in 1985. A Chinese official, Dr. Qianxuecen, was reported knocked down by the Qigong external emission energy of a Qigong master in a Qigong demonstration. Dr. Qian, a MIT and Caltech graduate, is the father of China Aerospace, a real rocket scientist. He became a Qigong believer and a strong supporter in Qigong scientific research and also somatic science research that will be covered later. If you go to any parks in virtually any Chinese cities at the time, you will find many people practicing Qigong early in the morning. Young school children were practicing Qigong in school in the morning before the ring of the first bell. Even many highest Chinese government officials were also practicing Qigong. According to some estimates, there were more than 20 million practitioners in the 80s. By the 90s, it grew to more than 100 million, almost 1 in 10 Chinese people practicing Qigong at the time. Some Qigong master was so powerful they were shown on state-run TV program, conducting energy healing session to the followers en masse. This is the era before the internet and social media in China, mind you. TV set was considered a luxurious item in China. State-run TV program were widely watched and has great influence on the masses. Hundreds and thousands of people can be seen attending Qigong practices, Qigong seminars, Qigong healing sessions and state TV programs. In some of those TV programs, after being treated by a Qigong master, some stood up from wheelchair and started walking. The blind started to see again. The deaf started to hear again. All kinds of illness were being cured live on TV. Some Qigong master was seen standing on stage, claimed to be emitting energy to all attendees and supposedly healing attendees. In some Qigong seminar conduct by some Qigong master, due to its popularity, the factory have to declare a holiday so that every worker will be able to attend the seminar. Some Qigong masters, with mass following, enjoy a rockstar status in China. There are all kinds of Qigong-related magazines, book, instructional manuals, booklets on anything related to Qigong. A Qigong master even went to the United States and met US President George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. President Bush Sr. was reported treated by his energy. Meanwhile, while the Qigong mania was in full swing in the early 80s and 90s, there is a separate movement called the Somatic Science Research, getting mass following of the Chinese people at the time. Somatic science research on specially gifted people with paranormal ability, which are extrasensory perception, or ESP, telepathy, the ability to read someone's mind, and telekinesis, the ability to move object at a distance. While all of the above was called, in a Chinese term, exceptional function of human body or EFHB, One of the first gifted children, a 12-year-old boy, were discovered in the Sichuan province in 1978. He has the ability to read Chinese characters sealed in a black box by using his ear. Yes, you heard it right. His ear. In some public trial, while trying to read the Chinese characters in the sealed black box, the kids will be saying, "Chai is coming," and within seconds will be giving the correct answers. In certain repeated trial, 90% of their answers were correct. In the late 70s to early 80s, there hundreds of children throughout the country were discovered to have some kinds of EFHB abilities. Newspaper, magazines, TV program were reporting this supernatural phenomenon. It was a mass following on these kids with special abilities. In a soul-searching atheist China, in the post-cultural revolution era, this supernatural phenomenon and Qigong seems to become the chicken soup for the Chinese soul. Groups to investigate these phenomena were formed in almost all educational and research centers in large cities. At least 500 formally trained scholars from more than 100 centers joined the effort. Some reported that 40 to 63% of children around age 10 were found to have paranormal abilities to some extent in a large-scale investigation in Beijing. Researchers used a variety of analytical instruments in an attempt to detect any radiations that might be produced by the children's efforts. In these investigations, signals ranging from infrared emissions modulated by low audio frequencies to gamma photons were detected. Traces of exposure were found on protected X-ray films. The researchers were excited, convinced that their discoveries were real and of scientific importance. Some top researchers pointed out that the paranormal abilities have something to do with this thing called Qi. Many Qigong masters were also tested to have paranormal abilities. Dr. Qianxuecen, the rocket scientist, threw his support behind the research of paranormal abilities. He argued that it should be permissible to use different approaches in research. Many natural phenomena are still not explained by science, and this is the way it has been throughout the history of science. In the late 1981, Dr. Qian had successfully set up a paranormal study site known as the 507 Institute or Space Medico-Engineering Institute. This institute, located in suburban Beijing, was under the state-funded defense-related spaceflight department. At the same time, there were numerous civilian research communities throughout the country for the same reason. While all these research were going on in the early 80s, there were also strong forces in the Chinese government and in academia who were against all these research and dismiss EFHB as hoax or magic stage show. The arguments of the both pro and cons factions were brought up to the Chinese Government Central Committee in Beijing. In 1982, the Chinese government ruled that the EFHB is not an officially accepted subject for scientific research. Paranormal enthusiasts in universities and college were not allowed to include the paranormal research in their formal studies, and they were not permitted to publish their result to the public. However, if the paranormal studies and research that is somewhat related to Qigong or TCM, then it was permitted. Since 1982, most test subjects were adults with paranormal abilities, as most parents were concerned that the research were not totally sanctioned by the government. In those research, the adult subject were moving object from a sealed glass bottles, healing a piece of paper that has been torn into two, making a fully cooked bean to sprout within minutes. Moving objects in the next room, healing chickens with broken leg. All these were so unbelievable. Yet the result of those research, especially those in the state-funded 507 Institute, were mind-boggling. Both the Qigong Mania and the paranormal research were the talk of the town. The Chinese people were totally crazy, frenzied and proud about them. Until everything comes to a halt in 1999. What happened? You might ask, while many Qigong master has strong energy in them, some of the self-proclaimed Qigong masters were fakes. Some of those fake Qigong master conmen were staging fake Qigong demonstration, claiming they were healing hundreds and thousands with people with their energy. Created a mass following of some hundreds of thousands of people in the country with their new rockstar status. Then they starting to sell expensive Qigong lessons, expensive Qigong healing sessions, TCM medicine, Qigong books, Qigong cassette tapes, their self-portraits, and getting donation from their followers. Some people reportedly died from their healing sessions and from consuming their medicines. Many fake Qigong masters were arrested and jailed. A chaos in the frenzied Qigong mania in the 90s. The last straw that broke the camel back would be the demonstration of 10,000 people strong in Beijing in 1999, protesting the arrest of some falungong practitioners. Falungong is also considered a type of Qigong, with more than 40 million practitioners in China by 1999. It is such a controversial organization. We won't get into the details of Falun Gong here. If you want, please do your own research on this topic. A tip though, please check out YouTuber JJ McCullough's channel. Falun Gong was categorized as a cult by the Chinese government in 1999. The mass demonstration by its members in Beijing in 1999 was seen as a challenge to the Chinese government authority. With one broad stroke, everything were banned from then on. From the practice of Qigong publicly to Qigong publications, Qigong medias, Qigong lessons, Qigong science research, Qigong clubs and association. The research of Paranormal and Somatic Science and the state-funded 507 Institute was shut down. Everything was gone in the late 1999. It seems Qigong has entered dark ages in China. There were nothing but negative news about Qigong and paranormal abilities. TV and newspaper were flooded with news of Qigong master and people with paranormal abilities getting arrested, and their evil scheme were exposed in the media. The millennial growing up in China in the 2000s only knows that Qigong is some kinds of superstition. Qi and somatic science are some kinds of pseudoscience, even until today. By year 2003, the government has slowly easing up on the restriction of Qigong. There were 4 types of Qigongs that were officially encouraged to be safely practiced by the general public. By year 2020, this list has grown to 11 types of Qigongs. Today, there have been some kind of slow resurging of Qigong practices in China. The Chinese people can be seen practicing all kinds of Qigong in parks early in the morning again. Just that, the Mania was never to be seen again. And the practicing of Qigong has been spreading all over the world today. Millions and millions of people worldwide are practicing Qigong for its health benefits today. What about the paranormal abilities, you might ask? There are some research on paranormal abilities were going in some universities today, like in the prestigious Peking University. It seems their research effort was pretty much flying under the radar of Chinese media. However, some Qigong practitioners were able to acquire some paranormal abilities after cultivated enough energy through consistent practice of this wonderful exercise. It is for you to find out, for the truth might still be out there. There are web link and YouTube video link has been added in the video description for those who are curious. Some of the material are, though, only available in Chinese. Well, that's all for this episode, folks. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you again in the next episode of Uncle Canon's Stranger Than Fiction.